Welcome to Eye on the Illini. We're doing our post-game analysis. Mike Kegley here with Matt Stevens. Matt, what are your thoughts after this game? What resounded with me was that this was very similar to the Minnesota game where Illinois wasn't maybe as sharp as they wanted to be, but this time Illinois was able to overcome it and win. And I'm not certain that this is the type of game that even a Brett Bielema team would have won a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think you saw. Here's what I saw: is I saw a yeah. I don't think Illinois played its A game, but I don't necessarily think they had to. I think they had to. I think this was a game where you could be a little bit more boring and win if you're Brett Bielema. And I think you you know look. I think there's. It sounds cliche-ish because sometimes cliches are cliches for a reason, but I think the run game and defense and opportunistic defense, whether that's you know you know making sure when you're on defense that they only get three when they're in the red zone, or no points, or you get a turnover. You get turnovers like they did in the second half. I think the running game with Aiden Lawfrey and Josh McCray, specifically Aiden Lawfrey, and then an opportunistic defense, especially in the second half, won the day for Illinois. And quite frankly, Mike, I don't know if the conclusion that I drew was more big picture, simply because now we're at the end of the regular season, and Illinois is 9-3. And I'd love to get your thoughts, Mike. Is that because I kind of feel this way, and I don't know if it's necessarily hyperbolic, but I don't know the last time that Illinois' program has been in this good a place. I think that was showcased today on a big stage like Wrigley Field. Um, I don't know if the program's ever been in a better place. You got guys like Aiden Lawfrey, who's certainly not exhausted nearly all of his eligibility. You've got guys like Malachi Hood making big plays today. You got guys like Xavier Scott, who's you know, going to be back next year. Pretty much everybody you can point to whose name isn't Pat Bryant, you can point to today and say, hey, they did some really, really good things, and they're going to be back next year. And a lot of these kids, Mike, Aiden Lawfrey's from Gibson City, Malachi Hood is from Chicago. You know, a lot of these guys are in-state kids that I think 4, 5, 6 years ago, before Brett Bielema came to Champaign, may have been playing for Northwestern. I definitely think Malachi Hood is of that capability of somebody that was probably going to play for Northwestern. Matt Bailey's from in-state. He probably would have gotten looks at smaller schools in Illinois and then maybe transferred to Northwestern in previous administrations. I think Matt Brzezinski would have never been found by previous administrations. He was found by Aaron Henry, and he's an in-state kid. Again, Aiden Lawfrey is a big piece. T-Rod Edwards is somebody who they took from Northwestern and literally made him into an NFL defensive tackle.
What a key that was.
Yeah, I thought he had a huge day today. And then again, this team is just really resilient in the sense that they bow up when they have to. You really only saw them. I thought what they did in the first half defensively, I thought was just so impressive. If Northwestern can hold the ball for over 20 and a half minutes and then end up with only 6 offensive points, the other 7 being pick 6.
Yep.
I think that's a really impressive by Illinois' defense to be able to, go into halftime and know, like Matt Bailey was telling me, we don't think we played very well. And then we look up the scoreboard and we were like, hey man, we didn't even give up a touchdown. Like that's progress. And then, yeah, I don't think Luke had his best first half of his life. But when it was time to find Pat Bryant, he found Pat Bryant. When it was time to find Zachary Franklin, he found Zachary Franklin. And when it was time to show his entire teammates that he was a tough you-know-what, when he's laying on the deck at Wrigley Field and doesn't even go in the injury tent, like it was time to do that, Luke did that too. So, yeah, I think I think this game symbolized a lot of things, but one of them is that I don't know if I've ever seen the Illinois football program in a better place than it finished today, and it finished the job with a comfortable win over a Northwestern team that's I believe going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I think you could really argue that this is maybe the one of the high points since the Makovic White era. So that is something that we could talk about, because if you go back, and I'm not going to try to throw shade on two of the most fun years that I've had, but the 2001 Ron Turner team was a team that was sandwiched between 5-win seasons, and
Sure.
and you look at the Ron Zook era with the 9-4. The year before they were 2-10, so it was, and 2-9 the year before that, and so you still weren't certain if Ron Zook was going to be able to coach enough to make it stick. With Brett Bielema, I don't care what anybody says, I'll die on this hill. That dude knows how to coach football, and he knows how to run a program.
Yeah.
So you're sitting here saying, okay, we've won 9 games and this season, and to be honest, Illinois is 2 games away from four non-losing seasons in a row.
Sure.
So because they easily could have went 6-6 those 2 years and made it into bowls with minimal good fortune.
Well, this game last year in Champaign being the antithesis of why they weren't 6-6, right? And Mike, I look at it this way: like, I think that 2001 team, they were really, really good. Yeah, they had a lot of the pieces coming back, but they didn't. They also lost a lot of pieces, and they probably weren't ready to win consecutively yet, or how to handle success. I look at this Illinois. I mean, the same goes for the Rose Bowl year with the Zucker. You bring guys back off of that next year, and suddenly then Juice Williams wasn't as spectacular as he was the year before, because Rashard Mendenhall's not there to hand in the football, right? And there's a lot of other pieces on defense that were gone from that team, and so I don't know if they were ready to handle the success that they had coming off a Rose Bowl year. I look at this and I think they just won 9 games, and Brett Bielema expects at least 3 out of every 4 guys, scholarship guys on his roster, coming back next year. Like, that's a huge building block for what everybody, I think, thought. When I think a lot of people, when the game was over in our game room here at IlliniGuys.com, were saying, I thought 2025 was going to be the year, like, that we finally turned the corner, like, based off the schedule and all that stuff here, whatever. To do it in 24, and then to do it with all these young guys, like, again, like a Malachi Hood, like a Matthew Bailey, like everybody in the back, in the secondary in the back, everybody, in that running back room that's going to be back. Caden Fagan's going to be back too, healthy, you would think. And everybody in that running back room is supposed to be back. Luke Altmaier has another year to come back. He graduates in a few weeks here in December from the University of Illinois, but he has the ability to come back next year as a third-year starting quarterback. And you got Brett Bielema talking about, if I could recruit 5 Colin Dixons, I'd recruit a Colin Dixon every time. They're really high on him. They're still really high on Malik Elzy, even though, he kind of petered off because of injuries in the late half of this year. But Mike, again, I just go back to you. I don't. Somebody asked Brett Bielema today if this was the biggest moment he's had in coaching at this level since he took Wisconsin to the Rose Bowl and then just didn't get to coach in the game because he decided to go to Fayetteville. And he kind of went, "Yeah, it is. We built something here." And it's not exactly just about the win total. It's about how they're getting it done. They won a very Brett Bielema type football game today, Mike. In conditions that called for Brett Bielema type football, quite frankly. They ran the ball with the hell out of the ball with Aiden Lawfrey and Josh McCray, and they asked the defense to do some things in the second half. And all of those things happened. And then when Luke Altmaier, when things broke down and Luke Altmaier needed to make a play, he threw the ball to 13 and good things happened. So, I feel like Luke got a little loose with the football today, but also this was a game, again, where, I talked with Matt Millen before the game and then at halftime. while he was doing the game for BTN today, and he said, I can turn on the tape for 5 minutes and realize that Illinois is better up front against Northwestern than it's that obvious, right? And so I think that Illinois knew they had an advantage at the line of scrimmage for the first time in God knows when, and utilized it to the best of their ability today because, I mean, Aiden Lawfrey had that one cutback counter play that they run that Northwestern is just over pursuing on the edge,
Yep.
and then they can stick their foot in the ground and then just go. That's an Aiden Lawfrey special, and he's been doing that his entire career. Quite frankly, I've seen him do that in spring games. Brett Bielema has seen him do that in practice all the time. Today, he was able to do it at Wrigley Field, and that running back room is so darn talented that I think Brett Bielema was really excited about it. And it showed today because they ran for almost, I don't know, what was it at the end, almost 250 yards, right? And they ran for 212 and just had really big chunk plays because not only are their running backs very, very talented, Mike, but their offensive line led by Josh Creutz today and then I thought JC Davis did a really, really good job in the run game today at the tackle spot, showcasing his physical strength and ability. But Josh Creutz just absolutely loaded up on his guy today and planted him. And I felt like that was a big key to getting those runs that Illinois got today. And if Illinois can rely on the run game, what they've been able to do all year long with Luke Altmaier and the two wide receivers on the outside has always been pretty special. But they were able to play big boy football today, and that's a Brett Bielema, and today it was an Aiden Lawfrey special.
Yeah, I think the you really saw. I don't know. I feel like this program is coming of age, and I don't want to get too melodramatic about it. But you go with the Grant Bierman flip.
Yeah,
You know there's other people who are watching this of similar athletic talent, but you also look at the quality, of what Bielema's recruiting in terms of, Bierman. Interviewing him was like interviewing a senior in college in terms of his understanding of what you were talking about and the way he answered questions. Here's a kid you're not going to have to teach a lot of stuff. He's going to come in with some really good basic fundamentals. Got good high school coach. Got good parents.
Yeah, I wonder, like, if we're talking about like the Bierman kid, like he's watching Malachi Hood today and going, "That could be me," like with the amount of plays that 45 was making on the field today. And quite frankly, Mike, when I interviewed Malachi Hood as a senior at was he at Mount Carmel or he was at the high school with Anderson. I'm sorry, but like in Chicago, I was listening to him in Chicago, like. He was that kind of kid too. He was that kind of advanced in the way that he did things. He was advanced in the way that he understood the game. He played safety in high school, so he understood how things work. Joliet Catholic. I mean, sorry, think of Joliet Catholic High School.
Yeah.
But GCA, Joliet Catholic Academy, like they are coached very, very well in that program, and they knew he was going to be a good middle linebacker or outside linebacker, wherever they put him in the second level. And he's starting to make plays. He made that play against Michigan. I talked to him today about making that play against Michigan way back when, and then that gives him the confidence to make the play like he did against Michigan State, and then making the plays, like he did at Rutgers, because they asked him to do some stuff at Rutgers. And then the stuff that he did today, that's next level stuff. And that room is now suddenly loaded because Dylan Rosiak's it's a broken bone, it's a broken leg. That's easy to recover from in a sense. And when he gets fully healthy, that room looks pretty good now. And that's what I'm talking about, is that you've got guys now that Bielema feels like he's built the foundation of this program to where, guys that aren't just starters are contributing now. And guys like Mac Rasitic has a pick today. He didn't play very many snaps today, but when he was asked to do something, 26 went out there in the second half and he made picks, right? And then And then if you look at it in terms of a coach, I'm sure Brett Bielema was looking at the day that Jakeem Clark had today and going, I'm going to rely on that young man later on in life because he's really, really talented and he's really, really athletic and he's really, really going to be really good. But he needed to have a day like this today because Northwestern just decided to pick on him, and we'll get him in the film room and we'll get him better. And I just like the confidence of this team. Luke Altmaier was asked today, a kid from Starkville, Mississippi, who knows what SEC football means. He was asked today, hey, you're going to play in the Citrus Bowl, and you're going to play a really, really good SEC team. I don't know who it's going to be, but you're going to play a really good one. And he looked at it and he said, yeah, I think that's going to be awesome because I'm just like, I know that the guys in our locker room right now aren't afraid to play anybody. And, I don't know if he comes up with that answer last year. Like, he is just, he's a different kid. I talked to Pat Bryant. He's just different. Like, he throws the pick six. To your point, Mike, I think he throws the pick six. I think we could have seen Luke sulk a little bit last year and then question himself, and maybe you would have seen another one, or you would have seen two more, like you did in the Penn State game last year. And I feel like Luke was like, no, I got this. We're going to be fine. And then again, I give him all the credit in the world. He's laying flat on his back on this turf today, and he could have gone in the injury tent, packed it in, and said, God, I don't want to take any more shots. I've been beat to hell all year. I don't want to do this anymore. And he gets up on his own. They don't even pull the tent back. And he looked at Pat Bryant and said, I'm fine. I'm not going in there. I'm fine. And I think they went down and scored the next drive. So I think Illinois football fans, maybe sometimes rightfully so, freak out about, the ebbs and flows of a football game. But I do feel like they have a lot to feel good about because, again, this is a 9-win season now that's culminated with, I think, 75% of your roster coming back next year. And that's so encouraging when you look at 2025 and what it could be.
Yeah, 9-win season, and you also were in a situation where, let's be really frank, I'm not certain many people, there's a very small minority, but probably people who have a tendency to pick Illinois to win 9 games every season. There were not many people who got above the 7 mark for this team. And and so when you see this 9-game season, especially with a defense that it was definitely thin in terms of established talent, particularly at the line and linebacker, because they couldn't afford injury. And outside of Gabe Yakus and Seth Coleman, they didn't really have any proven people. They had people who could possibly, in that category. And so when I listen to people complaining about Aaron Henry, I have a hard time not laughing because it's
we're going there, huh?
Well, no, again, I'm just saying I see it on X. I see it on X all the time. People are complaining about a defensive coordinator who had a defense that I would have pegged for somewhere around 14th in the conference, and he has it as one of the top 5 defenses in the conference. And they win 9 games instead of the 5 to 6 that I anticipated and many others. And they really haven't had the money to go dip into and assist him the way other teams have had the ability to fill holes. I just think if you're going to start complaining about Illini coaching, maybe just find a different team than the Illini football team, and just add to that the 2 basketball teams and the golf team. Maybe find some other team that you want to complain about the coaching, but I just don't see a lot to complain about.
If we're going there. Like Brett Bielema said after this game, because it was very, very big picture today, Mike. I got to be honest. The post game was pretty big picture. It wasn't just about the 60 minutes that was played here at Wrigley Field today. He basically said, when asked about Aaron Henry, he said, I expected to see improvement from year one to year 2 from Aaron Henry. I expected to see improvement, and that's what I got. I got improvement. Aaron is an improved defensive coordinator, and he has the total. He has. This is gonna like Mike. You say you see it on X a lot. I see it in our game room every week. There's certain things I wish people would just let go of Aaron Henry, and I think there's again, I think maybe rightfully so because of what they've had to watch for a while, but I think there's a lot of freak out that happens with this fan base, especially on defense, especially after what they saw last year. I wish they'd let it go because this defense isn't the same one as last year. And this defensive coordinator isn't the same as the one last year, even though it's the same person.
Look, Matt. The bottom line is, if you would have told me that Northwestern was going to have 48 plays to Illinois' 21 or 46 plays to 21 in the first half, have the ball for 21 minutes to 9, and walk away with 2 field goals at the end of that, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah, I would have too. And the funny part about it is that I asked Matt Bailey, I was like, did you guys feel like you were hanging on, or did you guys feel like pretty pumped about only giving up 6 points on defense? And he goes, nah, we didn't feel like we played well, but we got away with it. And I was like, yeah, okay. That makes sense.
But that's the difference, Matt. That's where this team is. This team it may not have the top end talent of the 22 team. You know, there's not a top 5 pick. And there's not a guy like the law firm that you're trying to keep here.
Sure.
But the depth is such that they can win games in November that they might have been too dinged to do a couple years ago. And this team, for what it was look like at the half, Ked and I talked, and it was like, okay, the team has been, the defense has been out there the whole half. The offense hasn't really clicked yet. They're up 14-10. That is not how Illinois wins games. That's usually how Illinois loses games horribly. And so, and I felt like at the half, if they could come out and impose their will, you could do a reversal and avoid a Minnesota round 2. And Aiden Lowry, followed by some spectacular effort by that offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
They took the game over, and I don't know that Illinois. I think these teams are a journey, and I don't think Illinois has been able to do that for quite some time. But that was something that we saw that makes this team special. And I'll go on the record right now for people who want to, I get a kick out of the sports media who's never made a mistake.
Sure.
When Brett Bielema got hired, I didn't like the hire. And I've told people that I was totally wrong on that. And once I met him for our interview a few years ago, he and I will have to sit down and do another one. But when I met him, he was more of an executive like you would see from corporate America. Mm-hmm. A guy who's no nonsense, understands time management, has objectives that he wants to hit, and then goes through a checklist and gets them done. That is not football meathead like Tim Beckman. That is corporate. You run a program and you have results, you have outputs that you're trying to get, and you know what you need from an input standpoint. And the way he runs his program, and I'm telling you right now, Josh Whitman couldn't have hired a better guy to run this program. And people have him and hauled around this. I don't know. I don't know on God's green earth who would have been a better fit. And because part of it comes down with somebody who wants to be here, not with 1 foot out the door like Bill Self had from day one. And I think that same thing is true on the other side with Underwood wanting to be here. And so I think that's critical, but Bielema has built this, and the journey is what has been so fun, because even the 5 and 7 years, while they were frustrated, you could see the pieces being put into place, and you could understand what Bielema was trying to do. And if you don't understand, you need to figure out football.
Right. And I think, Mike, one of the things he said today was, he felt uneasy going into preseason camp in 2020, going into 2023, because they were coming off this January 1 bowl game, but a lot of those pieces were gone. Like Tommy DeVito was gone. Chase Brown was gone. Paucho was gone. Doug Kramer was gone. And a lot of the pieces on defense in the back were gone. Spoon was gone. Sidney Brown was gone. And a lot of those pieces were gone. And he looked at him and said, well, I don't know if we're ready to, do this again. Like, I don't know if this team's fully connected. He didn't feel that way, like in the second week of August. And he says, usually when I feel that way, it doesn't manifest itself the way I want it to. And sure enough, 2023 ended up 5-7, right? With really good talent. Like, I think that team was talented. I do.
Yeah.
And then I feel like this team was talented. I think you've learned now that Pat Bryant's really talented and Zachary Franklin's really talented. And quite frankly, like T.R. Edwards is really talented. And Luke Altmaier, when he's confident and in the right headspace, which was really critical this offseason, is really talented. And, there's pieces on the defense that are really, really talented. They're young, but they're talented. And he said, I felt better about this team like on August 15th. Then I felt like they were connected. And you talk to guys like Malachi Hood, where like we were doing things as a team. We were doing team, we were going out together, like, and doing team organizations. We were doing NIL events together. We were doing all of this stuff that doesn't seem to like, make a difference to like guys like maybe sports writers like me, but like that's how wins like this kind of happen, where everybody just kind of stays calm and cool and collected and understands what everything kind of means. I feel like Brett Bielema, like I said, I've never seen the Illinois program in a better space right now, because Brett Bielema thinks that he's now laid the concrete foundation to what he wants his program to be built on. And if he can get some people to kind of let go of the past, he said that today. He said, look, I don't want to hear any more about, we haven't done this since whatever. Like, we're just going to keep doing it. Like, and if we keep talking about what we haven't done in the past, it's going to keep popping up again. I don't want to hear about that crap anymore. Like, and he also talked about like, look, if I listen to everybody tell me how, this program needs to be built, I'd fail. Like, I know how I want to do this. And if I fail because I'm doing it the way I want to do it, then I'll fail. But, I sat there, and I think it was the last 5 minutes of this game, down on the field level with Jen Bielema and her group that she brought, like, near the dugout. And she turned to me and looked, and because there was a whole bunch of Illinois fans that were just going out of their mind because they were winning this game, and all the Northwestern people were leaving Wrigley Field. And she turned and goes, these people are freezing cold. But isn't this really cool? Like, and I don't know if the Bielema clan has felt this way for a long, long time. Like that people appreciate who he is and what he's doing for the most important program on the Illinois campus. And I'll just say it, like, I think football matters at every place, every power conference organization, every power conference university. Football matters more than anything else. And I think that Brett Bielema is the guy you want building this program, because, again, I look at a lot of the guys that made plays today, and I tend to think that, when Fitz had this thing rolling at Northwestern, a lot of those guys might have been wearing purple, and they weren't today. Like Aiden Lofrey might have been wearing purple, or he might have been wearing Iowa black and gold, like based off of his recruiting. And Malachi Hood definitely might have been wearing purple. Like, you don't think Pat Fitzgerald would have recruited a linebacker like that? Matt Risedich might have been somebody who got, leveled up into a Northwestern, right? Because
he's the prototypical Iowa player. Some guy,
sure, or he would have leveled up and played somewhere, right? After he goes in the portal, right? Like, Illinois had never found him, but they did. T.R. Edwards may not have ever transferred. In fact, I know he wouldn't have if Fitz hadn't been let go. So there's a point where I feel like Illinois is in such a solid place right now, where, Mike, quite frankly, they can play like a C game today, like they did for most of the game. But if they have A moments, they can beat Northwestern by double digits. And that's exactly what they did today. So
the other thing that I think is very interesting is in today's college football world, there's no guarantees anymore. Georgia, if it wasn't for a couple of times that the SEC refs didn't throw a flag, they probably wouldn't have won last night against a team that is a 7-5 team. Alabama loses to the worst Oklahoma team in 25 years.
Sure.
You're looking at this across the board. Ohio State loses to a Michigan team that the quarterbacking at best can be called incompetent. You have these things. So there's going to be upsets. Yet this year, Illinois has found a way to avoid those for the most part, and I really felt like Minnesota at the time was every bit as good as Illinois and maybe slightly less dinged up. So
I'd love to live in a world where Illinois hadn't dropped that game. I'd love to live in a world where on the Sunday after championship Saturday, Illinois is sitting at 10-2 and going, are we in the bracket? Like, our only losses are to the two teams that played in the Big Ten title game. Like, are we in the bracket? Like,
yeah.
we should be in the bracket. Like, and if you're going to talk about all these 3-loss SEC teams, I would have loved for Illinois to have been 10-2.
I agree.
And sitting that, I would have loved, because this would have happened. Darn good and well that on Fox because they're going to do it with Signetti. Like, damn good and well that Brett Bielema would have been on that broadcast, like in the third quarter, live from Champaign. We're going to go live to Brett Bielema and just do an in-game interview with Brett Bielema so that he can politic his way into the bracket. I would have loved that because Brett would have been all about that. He would have been like, yeah, sure, give me 5 minutes. I'll tell you why we're one of the 12 best teams in the country. Like, I would have loved that. But again, like Ole Miss would have loved to have not lost to Kentucky. Like, Alabama would have loved to have not lost at Vanderbilt. Like, all of those things. But like you talked about it before, Mike, you talk about it. I use this term a lot for like a basketball season, but it works for a 4-month football season too. It's a journey. And one of the things I want to quickly mention is that, like, I think there's this thing with Aaron Henry that people just have this bugaboo. Brett wasn't asking Aaron Henry to be Buddy Ryan of the '85 Bears. Like, he wasn't asking him, to be, the coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens defense, like, that won the Super Bowl. He was asking Aaron Henry to be better than he was in year one. Mission accomplished. I think Aaron Henry was better in year two than he was in year one. I think Brett's going to ask him to make implemental changes in year three that are going to make him better than he was in year two. That's what I'm asking you to do. Like, and I think that, I agree with Brett Bielema that I think Terence Jameson is one of the best defensive line. I've been around a whole bunch of them. I think he's one of the best defensive line coaches in all of college football. I just wish he had more Johnny Newtons to work with. Like, I think when you see T.Rod Edwards get drafted this April, and it's going to happen, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. That's the epitome of what Terence Jameson is because he has molded that young man into somebody that NFL teams have to have. And 3 years ago, he was somebody that Northwestern did not want. Like, that's the facts of it. And so I look at how, and then the funny part about it is that I do think Brett Bielema has embraced what he said he wanted Illinois to be when he was sitting in the car talking to Kirk Herbstreit on game day, which was, I want to throw it around. I want to play the spread. I want to do all this stuff. He did that this year, but then you get into a game like Northwestern where it's very, very similar stylistically and philosophically to how we want to play. Well, we're just better than you because we have better big people. Like, if you want to play big boy football and you're Northwestern and Illinois feels like that you're playing right into our hands, man, you need to be more creative. You need to be more kind of up tempo and throwing it around a little bit and trying to create. You don't need to be playing big boy football with us. You don't need to be doing some of this quarterback option stuff because we have better big people and we're going to live in your backfield. And that's where I feel like Northwestern got caught today. And I feel like Illinois walked in here, like Matt Millen told me before the game, they're better on the offensive line and defensive line than Northwestern. Like, it's just a matter of, does Illinois kind of try to sleepwalk through this thing? And maybe in the first half they kind of tried to. In the second half, boy, they didn't. And I feel like even Illinois here's where I feel like Illinois is in a much better place, Mike. And I think the 9-3, obviously, that kind of shows it. But Illinois sleepwalk through a first half, and they look up and they go, "Oh, we're still leading." And I don't know, the Western's not great, but Illinois done that before this year, where they go, we'll play to like a C level, and then they look up and they go, "Oh, it's tied at half, huh?" And so I think that's Brett Bielema kind of going, I mean, he talked to me about it throughout this whole week. It's the thing that he talked about when he took the job. More games are lost than they're won on the sidelines. I'm not going to try to lose games. You know, I feel like if we don't lose games, we're going to end up winning more games. And I know that sounds like a no duh, but like more college football games are lost than they're won, and going out there and taking it. And today I felt like Illinois, you know, they could have grabbed this game by the throat in the first half. They didn't, but they also, you know, didn't whiz down their leg so bad that they couldn't recover from it either, not nearly. And so I just felt like it was a very comfortable win against the team that they should beat, and they did it. So again, if you want to look small picture, I think the running game and being able to stop the run in the second half and then create turnovers was a big factor. And I think it was very Brett Bielema-esque. I also think that if you want to look big picture, there are guys that are coming back in 2025 that I could keep listing that made big plays today. That, and that I think give Illinois fans a lot of encouragement that this thing's going in the right direction. Also, I think there's a culture being built here. Mike, you probably felt that when you interviewed Brett Bielema that first time, is that this guy might be able to build. Football coaches use the word culture, I think, too often, but like he's building an attitude about Illinois football that I don't know if a lot of other people built about that. Like he feels like there's something about Illinois football that should be better than it has been. And
look, Matt, this comes from being in corporate America. But
right.
when Brett Bielema talks about culture, the man knows what he's talking about.
Sure.
And for people who've been in big organizations, it's essential to have that culture because you can't be there every minute to manage everything. And so you have to have people who understand what you stand for and what the expectations are. And they have to be able to behave and execute in that manner when you're not there that minute. And he is creating that, and it has to go all the way down to the players. And he has got that, and he has built that. And that is the missing link that you see from some of these places. And I'll be honest with you, that culture creates an identity, and it's not BS. It's real. And if you don't think it is, go talk to our friend Ryan Day over at Ohio State. Ryan Day knows how to coach football. I'm not debating that. He knows how to recruit, although if I had 20 million, I could recruit a pretty good team too. But the fact of the matter is when the Ohio State Buckeyes get into a smash mouth game against Michigan or Georgia, they can't win because they don't have the cultural foundation that's necessary. And Brett Bielema has built that. And it's really hard to explain that to people who don't understand how fundamentally important that is, because maybe they haven't worked at a place that needed one, or they've been the lone star and the big, the single producer in their job, so they don't have to have that team. But I'm telling you, what Brett Bielema sat down and talked to me about 3 years ago, that it's come to fruition. And I have to sit back and look at what he's done. And look, I was way wrong on that hire. Josh Whitman didn't just hit that thing. He got a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I would agree. And look, I'll give you a perfect example, Mike. Pat Bryant went as far as to confirm he's going to play in the bowl game without confirming he's going to play in the bowl game. Like, he went around all this Wrigley Field today and told everybody, we got one more. We got one more we're going to play. He said, we have one more. Like, he went to Justin Stepp as receiver coach and said, one more. I want one more with you. He gets in with us and he's like, well, we're going to think about it for a couple of weeks. But yeah, I think going back to Florida, he's from Jacksonville. He's like, yeah, that would be kind of cool. Well,
there'll be an agent involved. So let's hope that the agent doesn't hold sway.
See, that's what I'm going with, though, is that, I don't blame Pat Bryant if he gets with his agent and says,
totally agree.
We're good. But Brett Bielema's culture at Illinois has Pat Bryant believing I'm not, if I'm going to interview agents, they're going to tell me what I want to hear. And because they're my agent And what I want to do is I want to showcase my ability in one more football game on national television on New Year's Eve, and elevate my draft stock even more. Like, and that's a culture that Brett Bielema has built. That you don't leave your guys. Like, and I know that the Brown brothers did, and Devin and Spoon did before the ReliaQuest Bowl. That was their decision. But if Pat Bryant ends up playing in this bowl game, it's because of the culture that Brett Bielema has built at Illinois. It's for nothing else, right?
Yeah.
And that's the huge part of this, is that, like, you got guys like, Pat Bryant, who want to come back and play. You've got guys like Zachary Franklin, who could have just bailed on Illinois and said, well, you told me I was getting in last year and I didn't. And I don't want to deal with you guys. Like, I'll go somewhere else. And he did. He stayed. He got to Illinois and made an impact this year. And you talk about guys like Olin Kreutz, who was wearing his Illinois shirt during his 670 the score spot this week, talking about the Bears game on Thanksgiving with Mully and Hall, probably to even out the Northwestern vibes from David Hall. But I know Olin enough to know that he probably was thinking that. But he's got two sons now that are making huge impacts at Illinois.
Yes, they are.
And I look, those were lovely recruits, so I can't say that the previous administration wouldn't have recruited Olin Kreutz's son. But I don't know if Josh Kreutz, would have developed as much as he has, except for what they're doing now. And look, I think Illinois. I think Brett Bielema has made moves that are extremely CEO like, and I think Brett Bielema did a really good job today. Like, it didn't seem like the game was managed anything other than well from the sideline. And I felt like there were times in which Brett Bielema could have lost his mind in the middle of calls, or Torrey Cox got that defensive PI, and I thought Bielema was just going to lose his mind. But it wasn't time for Bielema to lose his mind, and he just and he just kind of kept it cool. And sure enough, Torrey Cox gets that ball thrown to him again, and he makes the pick. Right. So I do feel like there's a give and take here. I do feel like Bielema's getting better, just like he's asking his assistants to get better. And I think Aaron Henry is improving as a defensive coordinator. I got news for everybody who still has this bugaboo about Aaron Henry. I think a lot of the assistants, if not both of the coordinators, are going to get new contracts, and they're going to get raises, because Brett Bielema knows what the Wisconsin experience was like, and he kept losing assistants, and he doesn't want that at Illinois. And I'm going to get my guys paid. I'm going to get my guys rewarded for the best season at Illinois in quite some time. These guys are going to stick around. And then he's recruiting guys like a Jakeem Clark, who, he gets picked on today in a really big national spot. But that's how guys get better, and that's how guys get, developed at Illinois, is that Aaron Henry puts him on that island, and, we expect you to make plays. And when you don't, we're going to correct the things you're not doing well, so that when you're a second and a third and a fourth year player, you're going to be able to make those plays. Brett Bielema said today he looks up and down his 74-man travel roster that he has on road games, and he's like, sophomore, redshirt freshman, junior, sophomore, and he's like, man, we're going to have a really good team next year. And I just feel like that confidence reverberates all throughout the building right now, and it permeated throughout the entire sideline today, even when things got a little wonky in the third quarter. Illinois' experience in playing these types of games, and quite frankly, winning these types of games recently, it wasn't a one-score game, but they're 9-4 in the last 13 one-score games under Bielema. We know what we're doing here. Like, this isn't time to panic, and I think that's also a sign of what Bielema's culture is building here in Champaign, and what he brought to Wrigley Field today for a big win.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is, I think they're on the precipice of something big, and it just, the biggest hook, and this is one that Bielema can't fully control, is, will somebody come out there to help with the NIL dollars? And I'm going to close on a fairly, harsh thing, but if Brett Bielema had $20 million, this would be this program would be every bit as successful as Ohio State, and probably more so because the coaching would be so much better. And you know, Ohio State fans can get mad all they want, but fact of the matter is the development that you see at the University of Illinois that you saw at Wisconsin and even at Arkansas was just better than what this current regime in Ohio State is capable of doing. And
I'll end it on this, Mike, is that if Illinois had $20 million, if Illinois had $15 million, it would be Indiana on steroids right now, because I know what the commitment is right now for people outside of Bloomington to make Indiana football good under Kirk Cignetti. And I'm talking about dollars and cents. If Illinois had that type of dollars and cents, it would be Indiana on steroids right now. That's what it would be. And I also feel like Brett Bielema, in terms of player development, but also in terms of being able to figure out fit and figure out like eye for not only just eye for talent, but eye of fit of
I agree.
This guy. If we bring this guy in, he said it today. He goes, man, I don't remember a guy who left us who we were like, man, we didn't see that coming. Like he blew up and we didn't see that coming. On the flip side, I don't see a whole lot of guys that come in that are supposed to be, you're going to make people are going to make the Terrence Brooks joke. Other than Terrence Brooks, I don't see Illinois bringing in a bunch of guys from the portal who were supposed to be significant contributors and then having them go, boy, where's he been all year? Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
but Terrence Brooks an outlier, and sometimes there are things.
I agree, but we're talking about 3 years of the portal now, and we're talking about one guy that Illinois has flopped on. There's a lot of big time power conference programs that would enjoy one flop in 3 years. Like, the guy just knows, okay, this guy's going to work. This guy's going to do this. This guy's going to do this for us. And Mike, you've worked in corporate America. You talk about this all the time. Part of when things work is when people are brought in, they know exactly what their responsibility is going to be from day one when they get on there. And I think that I think that's what Brett Bielema is. Hey, if we bring this guy in from the portal, I know exactly how he fits, and I know exactly what he can do for us, and I know exactly how we're going to put him in our system, and I know exactly how we're going to develop him. That's already set and done, and that's going to be huge for Illinois going forward, is to be able to now at 9-3. I said it on our board, Mike, during the holiday week. You know, I think 9-3 allows Illinois to get into conversations that they normally haven't been able to get into. And maybe they can't match the dollars, and that'll end up winning the day. I'm not saying that it won't. I still think dollars and cents are pretty much what it comes down to. But they're going to start having conversations with guys in the portal that they never thought that they would have a conversation with because they just weren't in the ballpark. Well, 9-3 and being on the cusp of the college football playoff gets you in the ballpark. So I'll end on that, is because it was a pretty historic day here at Wrigley Field, and I think Illinois proved once again the depths of difference between right now the two in-state programs in FBS football or in Power Conference football between Illinois and Northwestern showed out today, because I thought Northwestern played a little bit above their head today, and Illinois played a little bit below their head today, and Illinois still won comfortably. I don't know if Illinois felt that way before, and Brett Bielema said it in his postgame. He said, when I got here, I think they had lost 6 in a row to Northwestern, and it's because Illinois didn't respect Northwestern, even though they'd beaten them 6 times in a row. There was an arrogance about this rivalry with Illinois that was really undeserved. There's an arrogance now that is deserved because Illinois has better talent. They have better coaching. And then I think they have a better plan to build the program out long term. And I think that's going forward. I think that should excite a lot of Illini fans.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt. And folks, if you enjoy Matt's stuff, you can read him at IlliniGuys.com. And what we do, you subscribe there, and we have our special Black Friday. You get the free Illini Guys tumbler, and you have the ability to get our stories in their entirety. And we also have, besides that, you can get our stories a little bit ahead of time if you're a subscriber. And you get the message boards, which is where you can interact and ask questions back and forth with thousands of fans. And, of course, with Brad, Ked, Matt, Larry, and myself. it makes it for a lot of fun, and it's not a passive relationship. It is more of a two-way relationship. Please try it. $99 a year, 27 cents a day. It is the best 27 cents a day you will spend. We also have our game room, which we do during football and basketball games. It's a live message board that people can get excited about great plays, upset about bad plays, and it's real-time action of the Illini games as a group. It is a ton of fun as well. So please go to IlliniGuys.com and subscribe there. Of course, you can subscribe to all of our podcasts. We have Big Sports Radio, our Big Ten show. We have Illini Guys Sports Spectacular. We have my Heat Checks and Hail Marys, and you can get those at your favorite podcast distributor, download them, and be ready to go. And if you subscribe, you don't have to worry about missing them, and you can listen to them at your leisure. If you are looking to get away from the negatives of the political landscape that everybody seems to want to fill, we never talk politics. All we do is talk sports. We try to stay positive. We try not to be yelling and screaming at players and coaches. If you want something that's positive while you're on your ride to work or when you're driving home from work, we are excellent to listen to. We will lift you up, not take you down. And finally, of course, if you go ahead, you can go to follow us on Twitter, which is something that we always ask folks to do. And that way you don't miss anything. And you can subscribe to us on the Illini Guys YouTube channel. Not certain why anybody would want to see our faces, but if you do, that capability is out there as well. We will be back. We're working on a special guest for Eye on the Illini early in the week. Hopefully we will make it happen. And in a worst case scenario, we will see you next Friday when Illinois goes up against Northwestern to open up the Big Ten schedule. Until then, folks, go Illini.